So thank you so much. Always a joy to be with you in Crawley. I always say when I come Crawley, my only complaint is, can't you guys have a centre closer to London? But it's wonderful actually that it's not in London and that Krishna consciousness is spreading far and wide. So always an inspiration to come here. And today we're remembering Balaram. Balaram! Purnima ki! Krishna's brother. So we'll speak a little bit about Balaram and what that may mean for our lives. So, thank you for being here. Is this right? Balarama, Kunja Bihari. So Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you so much again for being here. One of our great teachers, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he sings, Ekaki Amar Nahi Paya Bal. He says, Ekaki, me alone, me by myself, me surrounded by nobody else, trying to do it solo. Nahi Paya Bal. Alone I have no strength. When we're together, then there's strength. When we're together, there's this inspiration. When we're together, there's a buzz. When we're together, there's good prasadam. Alone, nothing's guaranteed. Alone, we are exposed. Sometimes they say you can understand where you really are at in your spirituality by what you do when you're in difficulty and by what you do when you're alone. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, when I find myself alone, then I see that I don't have strength. When I'm alone, I have so much weakness. And I think all of us experience that in our life in some way, that there is a weakness. When the alarm goes off in the morning, Ekaki Amar Nahi Paya Bal. Who will be able to rise when the alarm clock goes off? In the manner I was fortunate to live in the ashram there for many years. So there in the ashram at one point we threw all the beds out because we were convinced no beds means more likely to get up in the morning. So everyone used to, we still do, we all sleep on the floor. So no one has a specific space. Wherever you find a spot, that's where you sleep at night. But I somehow always reserved one spot. I used to sleep in the library room, and I reserved one spot on the floor which was right next to the bookshelf. Because my theory was if I would sleep there every single day, then during the night all the knowledge from the books would go into my head. So I had a vested interest. So I would sleep right there by the bookshelf, and right next to the bookshelf would be the door to go out of the room. So many times I would witness what happens when the alarm clocks go off in the morning. And at one point, I remember one day the alarm clock of the devotee right opposite me, it went off. So my eyes opened, I was looking at him. It's amazing, the person who sets their alarm the earliest sleeps through it, and everyone else wakes up. Anyway, finally he heard his alarm clock, he looked at his watch, he realized 3:30. So I was just watching him to see what he'd do. So he turned the alarm off. I was just watching him, I could see his mind was saying, no, why does Krishna wake up so early? And Finally, somehow he unzipped his sleeping bag and then he sat up. He sat up in that position for about 1 minute, contemplating what to do. Finally, he got up from his sleeping bag and then he started walking towards the door. As he was getting to the door, he was getting slower and slower and slower. And then finally he put his hand on the door. And then he looked down and he said, I can't do it. And he just collapsed and he went back to sleep. And I realized weakness. We all have weakness. Actually, this one thing, if you can crack it, waking up in the morning and doing your early morning sadhana, so many other things in your spiritual life will be solved. So we have weakness when it comes to facing our mind. We have weakness when it comes to facing other people and challenging people around us. We have weakness when it comes to facing the different events and obstacles of the world that we're living in. We're weak. When things happen, we get bewildered. We get thrown off very easily. We get angry at Krishna. Why, Krishna, you are doing like this? And we don't have the conviction to continue. One time, in one lady's life, there were so many problems. So the mother, every time she faced a problem, she would go in front of the Lord and she would make a prayer, and her son was watching. And then again, after making the prayer, another terrible thing would happen in her life, and then she would go to the altar and make a prayer, and the son would be watching. And after this happening multiple occasions, the son just lashed out at his mother. And he said, what's the point of your prayer? Every time you pray, nothing changes, still the challenges come. Where is God? And then she went back to the altar and she started praying again. And this time he went behind her and he listened to what she was praying for. And as she turned towards the Lord, she said, Lord, just as in every situation of life, you gave me the strength to deal with it. Now I'm again asking you, please give me the strength to deal with my son's words. And in that moment, he realized that her prayer when she was coming in front of the Lord was not, my dear Lord, can you change my situation? Her prayer was always, my Lord, can you give me the strength to deal with this situation? Just try that. Every time we go in front of Krishna, we always ask Krishna, can you change my situation? But imagine you would go in front of Krishna and just say, Krishna, can you give me the wisdom? Can you give me the enthusiasm? Can you give me the strength to deal with this situation? Maybe life would start looking very, very different. So we need strength. We need power. Otherwise, we know what we're meant to do, but we can't do it. Therefore, tomorrow is Balaram Jayanti, and Balaram is very, very important in our life because it's said that Balaram is the source of strength. We need strength. Krishna has many, many different incarnations. It's explained. Ramadi Murti Shukala Nayamena Tistan Nana Vataramataro Puraneshu Kindu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Purusha Pumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Shukalena Nayamena Tistan Rama Nishinga. So many different incarnations are there. Nana Avatara. Krishna has so many incarnations. Krishna Swayam. I like these verses. Krishna is the original, but he has so many different incarnations that come. So all these incarnations come, and all these incarnations come with a different gift. In fact, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says there are Dasa Avatar. You're aware? Dasa Avatar. There are 10 main Leela incarnations of the Lord. And he says you can put them in an order of the evolution of species. So there is one of the Dasa Avatar who is
Sorry.
sounds like a game show, you know? Okay, first contestant. Now you know what you're listening to.
We're trying to get you.
Yes, so Krishna's incarnations are actually in a hierarchy of species. So one of the Dasa avatars is a water animal. Who's that? Kurma. Oh, no, sorry, Matsya. Matsya, you're right, yes. Matsya is a fish. So there's a aquatic. Then there's a form of the Lord which is land stroke water, amphibian. Who's that? Kurma, tortoise. Then there is a form of the Lord which is land animal. Who's that? Varaha. Varaha Dev. Then there is the form of the Lord who is half mammal, half man. Shinga. And then there is a form of the Lord who is a human, but an infant human. Vamana, very good. And then there is the form of the Lord who is a human, but a savage human. And then there is the form of the Lord which is a human, but an enlightened human. Buddha. Keshav, Buddha Sharira. And then there is a form of the Lord which is a human, but an enlightened, ideal human. Ram. And then there is the form of the Lord which is superhuman. Krishna Balaram. So like this, the avatars are actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in Krishna Samhita, they are in a, you can also see that they come in all the species. So all of these different avatars of the Lord are very, very special, and they come with a special gift. And Balaram is also said to come with a special gift. Balaram and Krishna appear together at the same time, but Balaram appears just before Krishna. Just before there can be Janmashtami, there must be Balaram Jayanti. So many commentators have analyzed why does Balaram come before Krishna. So they give different arguments why Balaram comes before Krishna. One of them says Bala means strength. It can also mean armies. So when a king wants to conquer a place, then before going himself, first he sends the armies. So the Bala must come first, and then the king can come. So the Bala or the armies set the scene for the king to then come. So this is sometimes one perspective that's given why Balaram comes before Krishna. Another perspective that's sometimes given is that Krishna is holding a flute, but Balaram is holding a plow, amongst other things. So why does Balaram hold a plow, and what is Krishna's flute? What do these things mean? They say the flute represents the incredible attraction that Krishna exudes in order to attract the mind of the devotee. Krishna is known as Manohara, he steals the mind. So the flute is that which attracts the mind. Venum Gwananda Maravinda Dalaya Daksham. Krishna plays his flute. However, first Balaram has to come with the plow. And the plow, what does the plow do? It removes all of the impurities from the heart. It removes all of the impurities from the mind. Because until and unless the mind and heart are clean, Cheto, Dharpana, Marjana, unless they're clean, one cannot be attracted by Krishna. And therefore Balaram has to come first, because he comes with a plow. And he comes to prepare the ground so that love for Krishna can arise within the heart of the living entity. So this is sometimes another reason that's given. And perhaps the most common reason given for why Balaram comes before Krishna is because Balaram represents the Guru, the spiritual teacher. the preceptor, the representative of Krishna. If you want Krishna, if you want love for Krishna, then first you have to meet the one who knows Krishna. First you have to meet the one who loves Krishna. First you have to meet the one who's given their life to Krishna. And when you meet that person, when you meet that spiritual teacher, then through their association, through their guidance, through their inspiration, through their example, then we can understand how to give our heart to Krishna. And therefore Balaram is said to be Adi Guru, the original Guru. And that personality from whom all the other gurus in this world draw their strength. And therefore Balaram is very, very important in our life. So Balaram is older than Krishna. Balaram comes before Krishna. And it's explained that in Vrindavan their name ceremonies were done by Garga Muni. So even their names, Krishna and Balaram, hold great significance. Krishna is explained. Krishir bhuvachaka shabdho naschane vritivachaka tayor brahma paramekyam Krishna ityavidhiyate. What does the word Krishna mean? Krishir bhuvachaka shabdo. The word Krish means to attract. Nascha nivriti vachaka, and Na stands for Ananda, or the one who gives immense bliss. So Krishna itya vidhiyate. The Shastra says the word Krishna means one who will attract you and then take everything away from you and leave you with Anand. So Krishna is a thief. He'll take everything away from you. Watch out. And then he'll leave you with the most valuable thing, which is bliss. Krishna will take away from you and eventually you'll become very happy. You kind of get a glimpse of that in the world, like your kids, they basically take everything away from you. And they do it smiling, charming, and you also become charmed, and it's kind of nice to be looted by your children. It's kind of cute. So Krishna is like that. He's a very charming child and he will take everything. So this is the meaning of Krishna. And what is the meaning of Rama, Balaram? Ramante yogino nande satyanande chidatmani iti Rama pade nasho param brahma vidhiyate. The Shastra explains what does the word Rama mean. Rama means Ramante yogino nante. Ram is that person who gives pleasure, who gives incredible satisfaction and nourishment to the yogis. In other words, if you take one step to Krishna, if you take one step to connect with Ram, then Ram will take 10 steps to connect with you, and he'll deliver you incredible nourishment, inspiration, enthusiasm and happiness within your heart. And therefore Ram is the reservoir of all pleasure. So like this, Krishna and Balaram received their names from Garga Muni. And they grew up in Braj. They grew up in Vrindavan. Actually, it's said that Balaram was perhaps the only friend or peer of Krishna who was with Krishna for his whole life. When Krishna was in Vrindavan, Balaram was there. When Krishna went to Mathura, Balaram was there. When Krishna went to Dwaraka, Balaram was there. And even when Krishna went traveling around to different places like Kurukshetra, Balaram was there. So Balaram was always with Krishna. And it's explained that this is also very, very symbolic, because Balaram is always with us in our spiritual journey. In our spiritual journey, it's said that basically there are two stages. One stage is the stage when we're materially conditioned, when we're trying to learn how to love Krishna. And then the other stage is when we're perfected, when we're pure, and when we've awakened love for Krishna. And what the teachers explain is that there's no time in your life when you don't need guidance. But what happens is when we're materially conditioned, the guidance comes from Balaram. Up until the time that you develop pure love for Krishna, your journey is guided by Balaram and the representative of Balaram, which is the Guru. Once you achieve love for Krishna, you are guided by the Brajabasis. They become your gurus. Once you're in Vrindavan, then there is a resident of Vrindavan who guides you on what you should do in the spiritual world. But in order to first get to that realm, we need to purify our hearts, and therefore it said that Balaram and the Guru is our constant companion through that journey. So, as I was mentioning at the beginning of the talk, the basic problem that all of us have is that we are suffering from spiritual weakness. And even Krishna said this to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Klevyama smagama partha netattvai papatyade shudram hridayador balyam yatvadishta parantapa. Arjuna's on the battlefield and he says to Krishna, I don't know Krishna, I don't want to fight anymore, I just want to give up. Sometimes we feel like that, I just want to give up. And Krishna says to Arjuna, Klevyam ma smagama partha, how have you allowed such an ignoble thought to overcome you? And then Krishna looks at Arjuna and says, Hridaya Gaur Balyam, you are suffering from weakness of heart. So every conditioned soul is basically suffering from weakness of heart. If I asked you, what do you think weakness of heart is? How does that look? What is the kind of way in which you would describe weakness of heart? Any ideas? What is weakness of heart? Does it mean you need a pacemaker? Determination. Okay, a lack of determination, weakness of heart. Okay, anything else? Yes?
Too soft.
Too soft. Can you explain what you mean by that?
So like for Arjuna, when he was on the battlefield, weakness of the heart is he had too much compassion for the other person when he should have been disciplining them. He was like wanting to let it go.
Okay, yeah, so not being assertive when you need to be. Very good. Yes, someone else? Yes?
And lack of clarity.
Lack of clarity. Weakness of heart means we're not sure. What should I do? Where should I go? How should I do it? Very good. Yes?
Lack of consistency.
Lack of consistency. Okay.
Fear.
Fear. We know what we're meant to do, but sometimes we have fear. We're overcome by different fears. Yes. Lack of presence, like always gravitating to the past or the future, unable to just be here now. Yes.
Lack of control.
Lack of control, mind control, sense control, lack of ability to apply ourselves. Yes. Giving in to temptation. Oscar Wilde said, I can resist everything except temptation.
Easily distracted.
Easily distracted, not able to just fix the mind, focus. So yes, many manifestations of weakness of heart. In a book called Bhajana Rahasya is a very interesting book. It's written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And basically, he bases the whole book on the Shikshashtakam, which are the 8 prayers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he bases the whole book on the 8 Astakaliya Leela, the 8 times in the day when Krishna performs different pastimes. So basically he says there are 24 hours in a day, and if you split it into 8, then there are 8 sections of 3 hours. So he writes a book and he says there are 8 prayers of Mahaprabhu, 8 times of day, and therefore there are 8 chapters in this book, and you should read 1 chapter every 3 hours, and like that spend your whole day. Try it out maybe one day. So he writes this beautiful book, Bhajana Rahasya. And in Bhajana Rahasya, there's one verse where he explains what weakness of heart is. And he says there are 4 manifestations of weakness of heart. In one verse he says, Tucha Shakti Kutinadi Matsaryam Svapratistata Vidor Balyam Budei Sasvaj Gyayam Kila Chaturvida. He says, Gyayam, those who are intelligent, they understand Chaturvidha. There are 4 divisions. 4 divisions of what? Riddaur Balyam, weakness of heart. There are 4 specific weaknesses of heart that every living entity has to give up. And Balaram, or Balaram's representative, is the one that can give you the strength to give up these 4 weaknesses of heart. Would you like to know what they are? Tucha Shakti, the first weakness of heart. Ashakti means attachment, and Tucha means very small, very insignificant, very unimpressive. So what does this mean? The first weakness of heart is that we are attached to so many things which are basically insignificant and insubstantial. In other words, the first weakness of heart is that we are attached to material things. Prayag and Puja, these are purely fictional characters. We're at their graduation, and the teacher called them up, and then he came to Prayag first and he says, now you've graduated, what do you want in your life? He said, I want the best job, I want the best salary, I want to be a multi-billionaire, I want my own island, and I want my own custom-built mansion and 10 private jets to take me wherever I want to go at any time. The teacher came to Puja and said, what do you want? She said, I'm very simple. I just want to marry Prayag. One way or the other. Everyone is looking for something material. Preoccupied with material things. And therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, this is the first weakness. Even when we know material things don't make us happy, even when we know material things leave us hungry, leave us dissatisfied, we still keep trying to enjoy those things. And while we're enjoying those things, we reserve that space in our heart for those material things, and therefore we don't allow Krishna into those parts of our life, and therefore we miss out. And so the first weakness of heart is to try to somehow or other understand very deeply Ye hisham sparsha jaboga dukha yonaya evate adyanta vanta gonteya nate shuramate buddha. Krishna says the first step is you have to become Buddha. You have to become intelligent and understand, I don't want to try to enjoy the things of this world. Why? Because every type of sukh in this world is the dukkha yoni. Understand this terminology? Yoni means a womb. And dukkha yoni means the womb of distress. In other words, sukha is the womb of dukkha. It means whenever you try to enjoy anything of a material nature in this world, know that pregnant within that material enjoyment is dukkha. And therefore, what does Krishna say? Nadeshu ramade buddha. Those who are wise, they don't play around with this anymore. They don't mess around with this anymore. They don't become diverted by this anymore, because they understand adyanta vanta. All of these things have an adi and an anta. They have a beginning and an end. And then I feel let down. So the first weakness of heart is the ability, tucha shakti, to give up this attachment to insignificant things. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the next weakness of heart, kuti nati. Kuti nati means deceitfulness. Showing one thing, but in your heart being something very, very different. Saying one thing, but thinking and feeling and meaning something very, very different. In the world today, people are not straightforward. We have a private life, we have a personal life, and we have a public life. And imagine if someone would video all three of our lives and then play the video side by side. Would it look like the same person? Often not. Because we sometimes present something to the world, but we are something very, very different. And therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, for one who wants to advance on the spiritual path, duplicity, hypocrisy, deceitfulness, this is a weakness of heart which has to be overcome. Oftentimes, even in our speech, we tell so many lies. Either we say something wrong, that's not true, or we know something that is true but we don't say it, or we say something but we exaggerate it. In so many ways, we try to deceive others. In the world today, what is really lacking is truthfulness. And therefore, this is another weakness of heart, that there is no straightforwardness in the world. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says we must overcome this. And then the third weakness of heart, madsaryam. This is a very fatal weakness of heart, that we become envious of others. Others are successful, others are doing well, others are getting attention, others are achieving, and in our heart it's so difficult to be happy for others. And in this enviousness of others, we're actually being envious of Krishna. Because if someone's successful, if someone's doing well, all of that is coming from Krishna. All of that is being given by Krishna. And therefore, if we feel bad about it, then it means we feel bad about Krishna as well. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that this is one sure way to make your life miserable, is to always be looking around over your shoulder and being envious of other people. When others are doing well, we should be happy, we should be joyful, we should realize that when others are winning, we're all winning. And no need to be envious. And then the final weakness of heart, fourth one, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur says conditioned souls suffer from, is swa-pratistata, the desire for name, fame, prestige, and recognition. We want to be recognized. We want to be glorified. we want position, we want control, we want to be ahead of others. And therefore this desire for name and fame, pratishta, is a weakness of heart. So basically what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying is that Balaram, or the spiritual master, comes with a plow. And what he does, what the Guru does, is the Guru works on your heart. And Tucha Shakti, the Guru gives you the strength to let go. Kuti Nati, the Guru gives you the strength to be honest. Madsaryam, the Guru gives you the strength to be genuinely appreciative and happy for others. And Swapratistata, the Guru gives you the strength to, rather than wanting to be the enjoyer and on the top, the Guru gives you the strength to realize real happiness lies in being a servant. And therefore, this is the great opportunity that we have in our life, to allow Balaram and to allow the representative of Balaram to come into our life, to come into our heart and work on it. Everyone has so many projects in their life to achieve things out there in the world, but the most important project is to work on these 4 things. Because every single day, if you work on these 4 things and we craft a beautiful heart, then what will happen is when Krishna plays his flute, then we will be attracted. When we hear the holy name of Krishna, then we will be attracted. When we hear the narrations of Krishna, we will be attracted. But right now, we're exposed to all of these things, but we don't feel the attraction. And why is that? Because the heart is blocked by the 4 weaknesses. Tucha Shakti, Kuti Nati, Matsaryam, Swapratistata. And so the prayer on Balaram Jayanti is that may I find the strength. Because Ekaki Amar Nahi Paya, alone I don't have the strength. But may I find the strength. And that strength comes from Balaram and spiritual teachers. One final thing I'll say, then I'll open it up if you have any questions. What does it mean to benefit from the association of a spiritual teacher? In our life, actually, spiritual teachers are appearing all the time. But how can we really benefit from being in the presence of a spiritual teacher when such souls arrive in our life? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says there must be 3 things for it to constitute real association. Otherwise, you may find you're around spiritual teachers, but nothing much happens. Because there has to be 3 things. He says the first thing is there has to be honesty. When we come in front of a teacher, we must be honest. We must come transparent, not trying to hide things, but open about what challenges may be there. In that honesty, there can be improvement. So the first thing is, if there's no honesty, there's no real relationship. How are you? Yeah. How are you? Second thing is, there must be hearing. To associate with a spiritual teacher means to hear them deeply. Not just to hear with the mind or the intelligence, but to try to hear with the heart. To try to really hear their conviction, to hear their love, to hear their desperation and their compassion for you to want to be better. One must become a good listener, to listen to teachers very closely. And the third thing, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, is there must be application of what is being said. Otherwise, simply to hear but then to not change anything in our life means we haven't really associated with a spiritual teacher. And so Balaram and his representatives can give us all of the strength, but then we have to be honest. Then we have to hear, and then we have to also apply. And by doing these things, then we will begin to see our heart changes. And if your heart changes, then you're very, very fortunate. If you develop the soft heart, a pure heart, a heart in which there's no envy, no attachment to material things, none of these weaknesses, such a heart is a beautiful heart. And such a heart is a heart where Krishna performs his pastimes. So these are points that we can remember on these days. Tomorrow is a very powerful day. Go in front of Krishna, go in front of Balaram and pray. May I become strong. May I not waste this opportunity I've been given. Let me become strong, focused, determined, and free from temptation so that I can stay on the path that I know will take me to where I ultimately want to go, which is the spiritual world of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
A little bit of time if anyone would like to ask any questions or yes.
My question is, what are the themes that inspire the acharyas? The determination, purpose, or the expression of things?
I couldn't hear. Did you say what are the themes that inspire the acharyas?
Yeah, what are the themes that inspire the acharyas? Like the fixed themes that also to like go deeper in this.
We are, the acharyas are moving because of love for Krishna. There's only one theme. Prema dhana vina vyartha daridra jivan. If you want to measure someone's wealth, then you measure it by one thing and one thing only. You measure it by how much love they have. So the acharyas, their heart is being moved by love. Everything they're doing is being impelled by love. They make their sacrifices because of love. They write about Krishna because of love. They spend their days racking their brains how to give Krishna to others because of love. One time a devotee said to Prabhupada, "Why does everyone love you? Everyone loves you." And Prabhupada said, "Because I love them." Therefore, the acharyas are moved by love. But we are impoverished in love. We look at our hearts and we don't find so much love. Of course, love is there, but it needs to be awakened. It needs to be unlocked. And so this is the whole purpose of spiritual life, is to try to become more loving. And this is what is moving the great souls. Okay? Anyone else? Questions?
What advice would you give the younger generation with everything that's coming with AI against, taking them off that spiritual road?
Maybe we should ask ChatGPT. Yeah, it's a changing world. Everything is changing. I don't think we realize the world is going to look very, very different in just a few years' time. But I don't think we need to be doomsday. Like every phase of life, every era of the world, every time period in history brings its own challenges and brings its own opportunities. But one thing is for sure, as AI develops, certain things will become more and more devalued. And that means other things will become more and more valued. And therefore, genuine relationships, genuine purity and authenticity within one's character, genuine motivation, service attitude to help others. All of this will start becoming more and more valuable when AI can do everything else that the human brain used to do previously. But what AI can't do is recreate that love, create that compassion, recreate that authentic desire to serve others. And eventually what will happen is this is what people will look for more and more and more. So I think the world is moving in a direction and you can't change it. But what you can do is focus on character. Focus on the subtle aspects. Too often when we're bringing children up, we focus on all the external aspects. What are their grades? How many skills are they learning? All of these, which are, I'm not saying not important, but the often thing that we neglect is what is their character? Are they learning to be humble? Are they learning to serve others? Are they learning to realize how to tolerate, how to empower others, how to work as a team? These skills, these qualities are going to be more important than skills, because eventually what's going to happen is skills are going to get more and more devalued because AI is going to be able to do everything. But character, that you can never replace. And that's why we have a great advantage in Krishna consciousness, because it's practically one of the few places in the world where we're actually trying to work on our character. Who else in the world is telling you to become humble? Who else in the world is telling you to be compassionate? Who else in the world is telling you, be truthful, be straightforward, don't deceive others? No one in the world is giving that message. But in Krishna consciousness, we're giving that message. And this, people will eventually realize, is the real wealth. Shakespeare said, if wealth is lost, something is lost. If health is lost, more is lost. But if character is lost, everything is lost. And therefore, IQ, EQ, and SQ. These are three components of a powerful life. And AI may boost your IQ artificially. But the EQ, the emotional quotient, and the SQ, the spiritual quotient, that you need to work on. And so that's where we need to put the emphasis. Exactly. Yeah.
Just following on from that, in terms of character when it comes to children and youth, and some of the things you talked about today, how can children that are surrounded by so many people when they go to school and you have to be a certain way and you have to fit in, how can they reconcile those two kind of worlds for them, where it is important to not be duplicitous and not have, think about what they're saying? What's your advice for children to reconcile those two worlds?
See, we have this sense that if I'm tolerant, then I'm going to be used. If I'm humble, then people are going to step over me. If I'm non-envious, then everyone else is going to get ahead of me. We're kind of programmed to think like this in the world. Actually, the humble person, the tolerant person, the non-envious person, they're actually the strongest. And what happens is when we learn to display those qualities in a relevant way, not only do we naturally also succeed, but we actually begin to affect the people and influence the people around us. We think that to survive in the world, we have to come down to people's level and fight on their level. When actually, to survive in the world, we need to stay where we are and lift people up and say, this is how you can and should be. Therefore, we have to train kids to be Krishna confident. And that means to be confident as a devotee, to be confident that this is the right thing to do, and you know, if I act like this towards others, then instead of being used by them, what I'll actually do is I'll actually be an influencer of them, and I'll bring it up. We have to embody that sense that if I do the right thing in the world, Krishna will always back me up. You know, and so we need. That was Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was in a school, you know, in which they were taught all kinds of things, but he didn't come down to that level. He stayed where he was, and eventually he had everyone on his level. You know, so that's what we have to do. We have to bring people up. Devotees in America, Australia, they're on Harinam. Anyway, they got jailed because it was a public disturbance. So they went into the jail, and in the jail they just started doing the Harinam. And all the prisoners were in jail, and they were doing Harinam with them. And it was like, everyone was like ecstatic. Finally, the people in the jail call all the devotees. They go, you guys are free, go. Go, you're more dangerous inside the jail than outside. That's where we go. That's what a devotee does. Wherever they go, they lift people up. We don't need to come down to people's levels. So be tolerant, be humble, be non-envious, and be Krishna confident, and realize that if you do that, people will be like, you're amazing. I want to be like you. And devotees shouldn't be the ones who follow the trends. Devotees should be the ones who set the trends. We're not here to be followers. Prabhupada didn't come to the West to be a follower. Prabhupada came to the West to be a disruptor. So I'm going to do something different. And so, devotees can do that. All right. Yes.
The fourth defect is life remains with seeking recognition. Sometimes in this world, whether you're in a corporate job, whether you do social media, I want name, fame, and recognition because that's what's going to help me in my business. How do I stop that from actually being a defect?
Yeah, here we are saying no name, fame, don't try and, put yourself in the limelight, and then we're trying to make clips which go viral, What does it all mean? It's dangerous because it's intoxicating. Therefore, there have to be things in our life. There have to be people in our life. And there have to be environments in our life which are very, very grounding. A devotee, if they're in that line where they have to put themselves out there and all of that, they have to have a very strong internal life. They have to have time away from the main stage when they're just serving Krishna, alone with Krishna. Those people who are trying to do those things, they should also have people in their life who bring them down to earth and remind them, relax, it's okay, you're not as great as you think you are. So we need to consciously create those environments around us which are very, very grounding. We want to become famous so that we can make Krishna famous. Otherwise, what's the point of becoming famous? Actually, most people who become famous, they realize after some time it's actually a massive burden. It's a big burden. But we do it because we want to make Krishna famous. We want to make the Bhagavad Gita famous. We want to make these teachings famous. And somehow or other, that's the world we live in. But we have to remember, who am I after all? Just a small person, completely made of mercy. So I would just say that you don't need to artificially hold back, but just make sure there are other parts in our life where we're being grounded. And that's very wonderful. Okay. Yes?
As I get all of the weakness of the heart, say for instance, and then how will I know at the stage when the heart has become really flawed and so that I become very dear to Krishna?
How will you know? You'll never know. Premera svabhava yaha premera sambandh say mane Krishna more nahi premagandh. The Shastra says premera svabhav. What is the natural characteristic of someone who has love? Nahi premagandh. They think, I don't have any love for Krishna. In other words, the most amazing thing is when you actually start loving Krishna, the devotee actually becomes incredibly humble and thinks, I have no love for Krishna. But they're joyful. But they're hopeful. But they're completely optimistic and energized in their life. But they're very, very humble. So, how do you know that you're advancing? How do you know that you're moving in the right direction? You'll be happier. You'll be more satisfied, but you'll never be complacent. You'll be very, very humble, and you'll know that there's still so much more to do in my life. Is that okay?
Just following on from the last couple of questions about children. So more of that teenager age group where they have experience and they've actually gone more harder than actually needing to go soft. So they've got more strength than they require. So how does one help them to become more softer? Because I feel like sometimes they get too hard, too quick at too young age, and they become, maybe it's life experiences that's made them like that. So how do we help them to become more softer and just be children? Because sometimes I feel like they're too much adult. Yeah.
Yeah, life and life experiences can sometimes make you very hard-hearted, make you feel like you have to be like that in order to survive in the world. Srila Prabhupada said a devotee should have the courage of an English soldier and the love of a Bengali mother. The only thing that can soften people is love. That's the only thing that can do it. When people come into your life, like I feel like I'm a very hard-hearted person, and I feel like I feel like the only thing that softened my heart was when people came into my life and just were just very selfless, were just very kind, were just completely had no agenda. People came into my life who wanted me to be better than them. People came into my life and put more energy into my life than they were probably putting into their own life. And then I realized, wow, they touched my heart. They melted my heart. So I think only Vaishnavas can break your hard-heartedness by their kindness. And therefore devotees should always be kind. So that stays with you. So yeah, we have to love is more powerful than anything. I remember we were on Parikrama this year, Brajamandala. So there was like, there was 1,000 devotees. You know what it's like when, and they were mainly Indian, so you know what it's like when 1,000 Indians are walking. It's like, it's surreal, it's like a stampede, So we were walking from one forest to another, and it was fascinating because, okay, I'm a sannyasi, so we get to be at the front. So I was like at the front, this stampede of like thousands. And then we were walking through this one village, and this one old Bengali lady, she just came in front, very frail, but she just came in front and she went like this, stop, everyone just stopped. And then she almost, she was speaking in Brajabhasa, so but then she almost just looked at the devotee and said, so you will come in for prasad? So it was like, is this a question or is this like an order? Or it wasn't pretty clear, but it was clear. It was an order. And so this old, there were like these thousands of devotees, and this old, Brajavasi lady, she just stopped everyone and she just said, everyone in. I was like, there's 1,000 devotees here. You're going to be able to cook for all these people? They were just like, they can turn it on anyway. And she just, it was amazing. She just redirected the whole Parikrama party, like thousands of devotees, this is one lady, And they all went through, they all came out with like puris and everything, and like and it was amazing. And I thought, this is amazing. This is power. It's like powerful. So don't underestimate the power of love. The power of love can break even a very hard heart. Yes.
Thank you for a really engaging class. Just want to ask a really quick question. So, obviously, every Friday we have one summer programs here. So this one is a different flagship event. Obviously, there's quite a few of us youngsters here, school students, uni students. What advice would you give to people who have just completed their exams or still yet to do their final exams?
Join the temple. What advice would I give?
If they're struggling in terms of their focus on their spiritual life, prayer, that's all.
Life is a struggle. When you're a student, life is a struggle. When you join the brahmacharya ashram, life is a struggle. When you get married, you can tell me. Life is a struggle. But at least we're moving in a progressive direction. Sometimes people ask me, why did you become a monk? And I tell them I was looking for 3 things in my life. Authenticity, answers, and adventure. Now I'm not saying you have to become a monk to find those 3 things, but what I would say is whatever life you choose for yourself, make sure these 3 elements are there. Authenticity. Don't live somebody else's life. Don't live the life that society tells you. Don't follow the dreams and goals that everyone says is real success. Live a life that's authentic to what resonates with you in your heart. Second thing is, find answers. Understand deeply. Who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of this life? Not just theoretically, deeply understand these answers. And then, adventure. Life is meant for adventure. Life is meant for excitement. Life is meant for exploration. Not just to work hard and then ultimately spend so much of your life and look back and then regret, why did I waste my time doing all those things? So, all of you have a great opportunity because you haven't made all your decisions in life. So you can create the life you want for yourself. So think about it deeply. And I made a joke. I said, join the temple, but it's not a joke. Do it for 1 month. Do it for 3 months. Do it maybe for 1 year. Because if you spend time understanding yourself, if you spend time deepening your sadhana, if you spend time working on your character, whatever you end up doing in life, you will be successful. So be bold, be brave, and just try. And you can do something amazing in your life. That you've come to Krishna consciousness so early, you can do amazing things in your life. You may not be aware what you're equipped with. You can do incredible things. But first we have to work on ourselves. Right? Okay, I think we should end here, is it? Yeah, I think we should end here. Thank you all very much.